Dark Bleatings, everybody. I'm Kaylee from Happy Goat Horror, also known as Goat Leader, and today we're going to continue on with our ranking of every Stephen King book. So that's novels and short stories. We're going from number 60 to 51 today, so we've done two previous videos. If you would like to see what came before that, I will link those videos below so you can check them out. We're obviously going in reverse order from worst to best, in my opinion, so let's just get straight in. At number 60, we are going with, I got a precarious book stack, they almost tipped over, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. So this is a short story collection. This has stories in it like Dolan's Cadillac. Let me just refresh my memory real quick while I'm here. Yeah, Dolan's Cadillac, which I loved, Chattery Teeth, which I liked, The Night Flyer, The Moving Finger, which is very polarizing, but I'm in the camp that I love The Moving Finger because it's so bizarre. Yeah, there's loads of great stories in this one. I don't think this is a bad collection. It's just not in my favourites. It's obviously not, it's not even in my top 40 Stephen King books, but he has written a lot, to be fair, and something's got to go near the bottom. So this is the one. Yeah, I would definitely recommend this. I hate to see... words again. I hate to use the cliche of there's something in there for everyone with a short story collection. I find myself saying that all the time, but I mean, ideally there should be something for everyone in a short story collection if you like horror, obviously. So that's number 60. Number 59 is from the back half of his career. It's The Institute. This is about a group of children with paranormal abilities. If you've never played the Stephen King drinking game, you should look that up. Maybe we'll do that sometime. And they're living in a place called the Institute, which I was really hoping was going to actually turn out to be the shop from Firestarter, and I will neither confirm nor deny. I can't tell you either way if that's the case. And obviously, you know, these kids are being taken advantage of for their abilities by the people who are running this place. I do in general think that Stephen King writes children and like children's friendships and relationships with each other like really well. I think maybe better than anyone else I've ever read that uses like children as their protagonists in adult horror. This one for me, I didn't feel so obsessed with them. Like the Losers Club in it is like, they're my favorite group ever, so I think that maybe my expectations might have been a bit unfairly high because I'm always like, oh, The Body, great group of teenagers, It, great group of kids, and then with this I was like, I dived in it fully expecting to feel exactly the same way, so maybe, I don't know, maybe I screwed myself over with how I'd feel about it, but I did like it. Would recommend it if this is the kind of story that you enjoy, like coming of age with supernatural elements. Just had to check what number we were on, I always forget. At number 58, I read this tome during the Beast from the East, which was like the massive snowfall we had here. I live in Wales. There was 3 to 4 feet of snow outside my front door, so I was trapped in the house for a week, and it was great because I just had nothing to do but read. And read I did. Sleeping Beauties by Stephen and Owen King. Owen obviously is one of his sons, the non-horror writing son, but he is an author in his own right. The first thing I want to just quickly mention, I have to, is I just love the cover of this one. I'm trying to show you. I'm sure that my my phone camera won't do it any justice, but it's just such beautiful cover art. And inside the dust jacket, if you remove it, they all had a little like emblem, I can't do words today, emblem stamped, and mine's a moth, and I think that there was a tiger, there might have been a peacock, I don't remember what they all were, but like some people went a bit nuts and collected all of them. I'm not quite that obsessed. This is about all of the women in the world falling asleep, not simultaneously, but just when they happen to next sleep in this time period, and they just don't wake up, and they're not dead, they sort of get enveloped in this gauze like cocoon kind of thing, and if you do wake them, they go into like a murderous rage and then fall back asleep after they've committed some heinous act of violence. So it's the concept is so interesting to me. I really loved the way they explored. So the women, when people catch on and they realize this is happening, you've got like one element of this story is the women who are still awake desperately trying not to fall asleep because they don't know what's going to happen to them once that happens. Like, do they go somewhere? Are they just trapped in their own bodies? Will they die? Like, nobody knows. It's such a bizarre anomaly and setup. And then the other element that I was really interested in was that all of the men in the world suddenly find themselves in a world where there are no women I don't know why I can't word today. I need some tea. From my favourite mug, by the way. All right, let's try that again. There are no women contributing to anything anymore because they're all asleep. And I was just so interested in that sort of dynamic and trying to imagine what that would be like. And it got me thinking about loads of other things, like what if all the men all of a sudden disappeared and women were just left to run absolutely everything? You know, what would that look like? And so, and you know, you had like your family dynamics and all of this in there. It was, yeah, I really enjoyed the concept. I didn't enjoy the execution of the concept as much as the concept itself, but I am still glad I read it. I probably would reread this one, but because it's such a massive time commitment, because it's a huge book, I probably wouldn't read it anytime soon because I've got so many unread books on my TBR that I try and prioritize over rereads. But yeah, I do like that one, and I don't think it deserves the amount of hate it gets, and it has had a lot. At number 57, and I don't have a physical copy to show you with its own cover because it's bound into the Bachman books for me, is Rage. This is a controversial one, which most people put in the bottom 10 of their favorites for Stephen King. Obviously it's problematic because it's about a boy who goes to school and he's essentially a school shooter, and this is written by an American author. It was released in the States a few decades ago, and obviously that's been a hot button issue for forever in the States. I don't know. I know that Stephen King withdrew it from publication because I think he was accused maybe of sort of contributing or like incentivizing people to commit these kinds of acts, or like, you know, being a bad influence on teenagers, and he just didn't want to put anything that could be harmful out into the world that way, so he withdrew it from print. So if you do have a copy of it, it's probably worth a lot of money, but unless you're sort of a Stephen King collector, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you rush out to read this book because it's such an amazing read or anything. It's very early. He released it as Richard Bachman. It's not his best writing, but it's not terrible, but you can tell it's like an early work. When I read it, I hadn't heard any of the buzz about it. I just had it and I read it, so I didn't know like all of this background context that I've just explained to you, and I didn't feel like it glorified the protagonist at all. I really didn't like him. I sort of I don't want to say I empathized with him, because if you turn up someone with a gun with the intention of shooting someone, you're a monster. However, a lot of people have said this like really glorifies that kind of violence, and I didn't feel that way, but that could just be because I was young and I didn't really have a very good understanding like contextually of what I was reading. I was just reading it as a piece of fiction, and yeah, again, I think this might have been like a youth thing on my case, but I didn't even realize fully like the extent of that problem in real world America. So I think if I read it again, then I probably would feel quite differently about it. But as it stands, this is where I would just put it in the rankings, just as a piece of fiction. I'm not in a hurry to read it again, though. I will say that it's not one that I would find myself dying to pick up and, you know, peruse. Sorry, I can't do talking about books without a cup of tea. I'm going to blame Mike from Mike's Book Reviews for this, because he always has a mug of something and it always makes me want to have a nice little mug of something. Oh, he does really great Stephen King content, by the way. Just going to throw that out there, but watch my video first before you go on over to his channel. Next on my list is Dreamcatcher, and I was trying to think of justifications for why I like this book so much, because everyone really seems to hate it. and I really don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. In fact, I really enjoyed it. This is about a group of friends who go to stay in a cabin in the woods, and it's like an annual thing that they do. They hang out and they, you know, they hunt and whatever. You know, just spend some time, some bro time together, and then a lone stranger stumbles out of the woods, lost, and there is something really wrong with him, and they sort of take him in, and maybe that turns out to be a mistake. The thing that you've probably heard about this, if you haven't read it, if you've heard the phrase ass weasels, this is the glorious piece of work from whence that came. If you've seen I mean, I like the film adaptation as well. I don't know, I feel like an island. No one else I know in my real life likes this book. I think I really like stories about friendships like that, and all the friendships felt really sincere, and I was really attached to all of the characters here. The next book that I read after this one, which was years later, where I felt really attached to like a group of men like that, was In the Ritual by Adam Neville, and which is a completely different story, apart from just like the basic setup in that it's a group of friends that go out hiking together, and it's sort of a tradition they used to have, or a trip that they'd planned before. But it's just it's the group dynamic that I really love. I always feel so much stronger about a book when I'm like really worried for everyone, and if there's a host of characters and there's, you know, it's a horror novel, you know that some of them are gonna die. So I'm always like really tense about that. So yeah, I'm gonna sing the praises of Dreamcatcher and just take whatever ass weasel crap comes my way over that one. Okay, next on my list is The Dark Tower 7, which in hindsight I think I should have put Dreamcatcher over this one because I don't have as much positive stuff to say. So this is the final book in the Dark Tower series. Now, I'm not going to give you any spoilers because the very end of this was spoiled for me by my mum. Thanks, Mum. She did it on accident, but still. I don't have a problem with the way this ended. In fact, I believe it was set up quite well. I expected the way it ended. What I didn't like was the conclusion for all but one character. I just couldn't believe it. I can't talk about it. Right, if you want to see a spoiler review for this, let me know, because I do have things to say, but I just can't do it here because I just will not ruin a book series for anybody. But oh my Dark Lord, I swear, I just feel like King wanted to hurt us, and I have to stop. Right, I'm not going to say any more about it. I like it because it's, you know, part of the... I can't even do any... Look, listen to my voice. Right, hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm calm now, and from here on out, I think I can proceed rationally again. Now I understand why Spoonie used to flip if anyone used to watch Spoonie when he was about. Okay. Number 54, let's just move on. I'm still mad. Right, I should have put that lower in my rankings, obviously. But next up, let's just move on to Just After Sunset. This is a short story collection, and let me just peruse the table of contents and let you know what's in here. I normally can pluck these stories like just out of memory, but that was a stronger emotional reaction than I thought I was going to have when I brought that book up. Right, okay, we have Willa, Rest Stop, N. Yeah. So again, this is sort of an eclectic mix. N is probably the most popular story in this collection, if you've heard of it. I can't really talk too much about a collection without going into the specifics of short stories, and I really don't like going into the specifics of short stories because they're short stories. You don't have a lot of time like you do with a novel. So yeah, I don't have much to say. I'm just gonna pop that on the old pile there. The pile is getting big, I have to move. And we'll move on to number 53, which is What a Shock, another short story collection, Everything's Eventual. Now this book contains Autopsy Room 4, loved. The Man in the Black Suit, loved. In the Death Room I loved. The Little Sisters of Illyria, which is, it's a Dark Tower short story. So if you're like a Dark Tower junkie and you haven't read this, then you need to. The Road Virus Heads North, which is a The Stand type story. Lunch at the Gotham Cafe, and 1408 and Riding the Bullet. So like this is just a really great collection. If you haven't read this one for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I just didn't want to pick this one up. It just wasn't on my radar. And when I was going through all of my unread Stephen Kings, I just left this so late because for some reason, I don't know, maybe it's the cover, maybe I just don't like the cover that much and I decided nah. But I was prioritizing everything over this, and then when I actually got to it, I really enjoyed it. So there's that one. We're almost at the end of this video now. Number 52 is Song of Susanna, so this is Dark Tower 6. Wait. Yes, it's the Dark Tower 6. I have pins and needles in my feet. Right. I didn't think about how to sit comfortably today. Hold on, let me just adjust. Just drink my tea over my mountain of books. Alright, Song of Susanna, Dark Tower 6. I really enjoyed this one. Again, this is one that isn't very popular with people, but this is obviously a very Susanna-centric book. A lot of weird stuff happens. I can't really talk about it because, again, it's very late in the series. And I don't want to risk spoiling anything, especially because it's a series, so I'm just going to move on to the last book of this video, number 51, and it is Desperation. And I talked about the regulators in the last video, or maybe the one even before that. I can't remember where I put that one now, but so this is about a town and really scary, weird things start happening in that I think it's the sheriff, suddenly just goes a little bit peculiar and starts acting oddly. And this has got one of the best openings I've ever read in a book. There's a couple driving along. They get pulled over, and I'm not gonna like say what this cop says to them, because when I read it I was like, oh my god, what will happen? So like I don't want to like ruin it ahead of time for anyone, but yeah, this has got one of the strongest openings for a book that, and sometimes I just like to reread it, just the opening. Yeah, I did enjoy this one much more than the regulators. There's some like real weird shizzle in here. But yeah, this is kind of like my type of weird, I guess, for a story. I did enjoy it. I am planning to like reread this and the regulators, because I don't think that the regulators had like a fair read from me in hindsight, which I realised the other day when I talked about it. So I probably will go back. So that's it for these rankings. The next video will be up next week if you'd like to watch that one. If any of these are in your bottom 10 or your top 10, I would love to hear from you. So like please talk to me about these books in the comments. I can never ever talk about books too much, which is why I'm doing these videos. I'm hoping that people will just start talking King with me. I'd love to know what your opinion on any or all of these are. So, yep, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me today.